Welcome everyone, I'm Dale and this is Cinema Historia. A rising Chicago gangland, a new territory leader, and a gangster's relentless pursuit. This week we're going back to 1932 for an American pre-code gangster film called Scarface, starring Paul Muni, Anne Vorjak, Karen Morley, and George Raft. And this is directed by and produced by Howard Hawks. Our story, set in the 1920s this week, begins at the Castillo Cafe on 22nd Street, Chicago. Ambitious Italian thug Tony Camonte, played by Paul Muni, alias Scarface, works as bodyguard for crime lord Big Louie Castillo. At the end of the evening's stag party, Big Louie is murdered by Camonte, and the headlines in the Daily Record newspaper the next morning read, "Castillo murder to start gang war." That same morning, Camonte and associate Guino Rinaldo, played by George Raft, alias Little Boy, while at the barbershop, are picked up by Police Inspector Ben Guarino and taken downtown for questioning. There, the chief questions both Camonte and Rinaldo on their whereabouts the night before, but before things get heated, the lawyer shows up with a habeas corpus and the boys are released. Next, Johnny Lovo takes over Castillo's territory in the south side and has Tony and his associates Guino and Angelo supervise a lucrative bootlegging operation, selling illegal beer to all the bars, forcing out their rivals. Tony becomes increasingly dominant and controlling, even with his little sister Francesca Camonte, alias Seska, played by Anne Vorjak. Tony urges Lovo to start moving in on the north side, where the bootlegging is controlled by the Irish gangster O'Hara. Tony, refusing Lovo's orders to leave the north side alone, removes O'Hara's men while eagerly expanding his rackets. Meanwhile, Tony pursues Johnny's girlfriend Poppy, played by Karen Morley, who dismisses him but pays him more attention as his status rises and he starts flaunting his wealth. Before long, Lovo was the only nominal boss, while Tony became increasingly notorious and powerful, attracting the attention of other gangsters and the police. Reading the slogan on the electric billboard outside his apartment, "The world is yours," aggressive Tony finally gets rid of O'Hara. O'Hara's successor, Tom Gaffney, played by Boris Karloff, now declares war on the south side and attempts to kill Tony. Sounds like trouble. So, does Seska pursuing Guino throw Tony into a killing rage? Are Tony's next targets Gaffney and Lovo? Or does the police chief vow to bring Tony down for all the carnage and bloodshed he has inflicted on the city? Released April 9th, 1932, Scarface was produced before the introduction of the Production Code in 1934, which enforced regulations on film content. However, the Hays Code, a more lenient precursor, called for significant alterations. These changes delayed the film a year. Business tycoon Howard Hughes bought the rights to the American pulp fiction author Armitage Trail's 1930 novel Scarface, inspired by the life of Al Capone. A 98% rating from the film critic Rotten Tomatoes states, "The original Scarface is one of the best gangster films ever made." Yes, it is, and I did one of the other biggies from back then. Please click the link below for Little Caesar from 1931. It stars Edward G. Robinson. And our trivia question this week, did a screenwriter get a visit by some very influential people? Did a screenwriter get a visit by some very influential people? So, a little more history and the answer to our trivia question coming up next. For history this week, I have a treat, a car from the Prohibition era, a 1930 Ford Model A. So, gangsters in the 1920s favored luxury and powerful cars like the Cadillacs, Lincolns, and Packards to project wealth and outrun rivals or police, usually heavily armored with bulletproof glass. However, the new Ford Model A, introduced in December of 1927, became a sales leader, replacing the Model T, which had been produced for 18 years. And my friend Earl was kind enough to show me his 1930 Ford Model A two-door, spelled Tudor. This vehicle features a full body-off-frame restoration, rebuilt engine and transmission, and a completely reupholstered interior. The engine is a 4-cylinder, 201 cubic inch or 3.3 liter L-head inline engine that produces 40 horsepower with a 3-speed manual transmission. The transmission was a conventional, unsynchronized 3-speed sliding gear manual with a single-speed reverse, and the Model A had 4-wheel mechanical drum brakes. The Model A came in a wide range of styles, including coupes, 4-doors, spelled Fordors, Victoria Town Car, station wagon, taxi cab, truck, and commercial vehicles. By February 4th, 1929, 1 million Model A's had been sold. By July 24th, 2 million. And in March 1930, Model A sales hit 3 million, and there were 9 body styles available. The Model A was the first Ford to use the standard set of driver controls with conventional clutch and brake pedals, throttle, and gear shift. The Model A's fuel is situated in the cowl between the engine compartment firewall and the dash panel, has a visual fuel gauge with the fuel flowing to the carburetor by gravity. Earl's vehicle features optional rear-view mirrors and a luggage rack that serves as a trunk. The Model A was one of the first production cars to have safety glass in the windshield, which tilts out for ventilation. Model A production ended in March 1932 after 4,858,644 had been sold in all body styles. The successor, well, it was the Model B, and in 1932 became the Gangster's choice, as it introduced Ford's new flathead 221 cubic inch or 3.6 liter V8, producing 65 horsepower. And I would like to thank Earl for his time and polishing, and hope he enjoys many more years driving and displaying this treasured classic at car shows across southern Ontario. Thank you, Earl, for making this video possible. And the answer to our trivia question this week: did a screenwriter get a visit by some very influential people? Yes, they certainly were. Yes, screenwriter Ben Heck, during filming, returned to his Los Angeles hotel room one night to find 2 of Al Capone's hoods waiting for him. The gangsters demanded to know if the movie was about Capone. Heck assured him that it wasn't. Why is the movie called Scarface? One of the hoods demanded. Everyone will think it's about Capone. That's the reason, said Heck. If people think it's about Capone, they'll come and see it. Part of our racket we call show business. The Capone hoods, who appreciated the value of a scam, left the hotel less hostile, and I'm so glad they did. We might not have had this film. I'd like to give a big thank you to my viewers and subscribers. Thanks for tuning in this week, and we'll see you soon.